In the vast silence of space, a routine mission turns into humanity's darkest nightmare. When the crew of the Starship Odyssey awakens to find their bodies no longer entirely human, they must unravel the horrifying truth behind an alien experiment that threatens not just their lives, but the very essence of what it means to be human. As mutations spread and trust erodes, survival becomes a battle against both the unknown and themselves. Can they reclaim their humanity before it's too late? Or will they become something else? Subscribe now to uncover the chilling secrets of alien DNA, the human experiment dash. The Starship Odyssey drifted through the void like a silent sentinel, its sleek metallic hull glinting faintly under distant starlight. For years, humanity had dreamed of reaching beyond its solar cradle, and this vessel was one of many sent to explore the uncharted depths of space. Its crew consisted of 6 individuals chosen not only for their expertise but also for their resilience, a carefully curated team meant to represent the pinnacle of human achievement. Each member had been handpicked after rigorous testing, ensuring that their skills, temperament, and adaptability would make them ideal candidates for such a monumental journey. Captain Elena Voss, the leader of the expedition, was known for her calm demeanor under pressure and her unwavering dedication to the mission. Lieutenant Marcus Hale, the ship's security officer, possessed unparalleled physical strength and tactical acumen. Dr. Priya Nair, the chief medical officer, brought years of experience in genetic research and emergency medicine. Engineer Sofia Alvarez specialized in advanced propulsion systems and repair protocols, while communications specialist Liam Chen excelled at deciphering complex signals and maintaining contact with Earth. Completing the team was Commander Jace Reynolds, whose role as second-in-command made him a natural mediator between conflicting opinions within the group. Their mission had started simply enough: chart new regions of space, gather data on celestial phenomena, and search for signs of extraterrestrial life. It was a dream shared by scientists, explorers, and dreamers alike, a chance to push the boundaries of human knowledge and perhaps even answer the age-old question, are we alone? Yet as they approached an unmarked region of space known only as Sector 247, none could have foreseen how profoundly their journey would change them. What began as curiosity quickly spiraled into something far darker and more sinister than any of them could have imagined. Sector 247 was a place shrouded in mystery. Astronomers back on Earth had long speculated about its unique properties, noting anomalies in gravitational readings and electromagnetic activity that defied conventional explanation. Some believed it might harbor wormholes or other cosmic phenomena capable of bending the fabric of reality itself. Others dismissed these theories as fanciful speculation, attributing the anomalies to equipment malfunctions or incomplete data. Regardless, the sector remained largely unexplored due to its remote location and the dangers inherent in navigating such treacherous terrain. But when the Odyssey received a faint signal emanating from a nearby moon, one that pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat, the decision to investigate felt inevitable. Captain Voss ordered the ship to divert course, curiosity overriding caution. Little did they know, this choice would set into motion events that would forever alter the course of their lives. As the ship drew closer to the source of the signal, tension aboard the Odyssey grew palpable. Instruments flickered unpredictably, and the hum of the engines seemed louder than usual, almost as if the very air around them vibrated with anticipation. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, each silently wondering whether they were making a terrible mistake. Still, there was no turning back now. The signal was unlike anything they had encountered before, fragmented, distorted, yet undeniably artificial. It carried an aura of intelligence, as though trying to communicate across unimaginable distances. Could it be evidence of another civilization? A beacon left behind by ancient travelers? Or something else entirely? Whatever lay ahead, one thing was certain: nothing would ever be the same again. The surface of the moon was barren, its gray expanse broken only by jagged cliffs and deep fissures that stretched endlessly across the horizon. The landscape bore little resemblance to the lush, vibrant worlds often depicted in science fiction novels or speculative documentaries. Instead, it was desolate, almost oppressively so, with an eerie stillness that seemed to swallow sound whole. Even the faint crunch of boots against the rocky terrain barely registered, muffled by the oppressive weight of the silence surrounding them. Yet beneath this lifeless veneer lay something extraordinary, a sprawling alien complex buried within the crust. The entrance was concealed ingeniously, blending seamlessly with the natural topography until the crew activated a series of hidden mechanisms using the remnants of the mysterious signal they had intercepted. Once inside, The stark contrast between the exterior and interior became immediately apparent. The architecture defied comprehension. Walls seemed to pulse with an inner light, shifting imperceptibly as if alive. At first glance, the structure appeared to follow no discernible logic. Angles bent in ways that challenged Euclidean geometry, surfaces shimmered with iridescent hues, and passageways twisted and turned without rhyme or reason. Every step forward revealed new wonders and terrors alike. Chambers filled with strange machinery hummed softly, their functions utterly inscrutable. Crystalline structures jutted out from floors and ceilings, emitting faint, rhythmic pulses of light that cast hypnotic patterns across the room. Some areas were bathed in warmth, while others exuded an icy chill that seeped through their suits despite the advanced thermal regulation systems. Despite the awe-inspiring nature of their surroundings, unease settled over the crew like a thick fog. There was something inherently wrong about this place, something that gnawed at the edges of their consciousness, whispering warnings they couldn't quite articulate. And then there were the pods. Rows upon rows of translucent cylinders lined the walls of one particularly large chamber, each containing shadowy forms suspended in viscous fluid. These specimens ranged in size and shape, some humanoid in appearance, while others bore no resemblance to anything remotely terrestrial. Tendrils writhed lazily within the liquid, and occasional flashes of movement suggested life, or at least some form of animation. Though labeled with symbols no one could decipher, it didn't take long for the crew to realize these were biological specimens. Something here wasn't just studying life, it was creating it. The implications sent chills down their spines. Whoever, or whatever, had built this facility possessed technology far beyond human understanding. They weren't merely observing evolution. They were manipulating it, shaping organisms according to designs incomprehensible to mortal minds. Despite their growing apprehension, scientific curiosity drove them deeper into the labyrinthine structure. Each discovery raised more questions than answers. Was this a laboratory, a factory, or perhaps something else entirely? The lack of clear purpose added to the sense of dread permeating every corner of the facility. Unexplained noises echoed through corridors that should have been silent. Soft clicks, low rumbles, and occasional screeches that set teeth on edge. Equipment malfunctioned without reason, sensors registering phantom readings that vanished as quickly as they appeared. And always, lurking in the periphery of vision, were fleeting shadows that disappeared when directly confronted. Paranoia began to creep in, gnawing at the edges of rational thought. Were they being watched? Followed? Hunted? The possibility hung heavy in the air, a specter haunting every decision and action. Yet amidst the fear and uncertainty, a spark of hope remained. If they could understand the technology here, if they could unlock its secrets, they might gain insights that could revolutionize humanity's understanding of biology, genetics, and even consciousness itself. Such knowledge could propel their species forward by centuries, solving problems once thought unsolvable and opening doors to possibilities previously relegated to the realm of fantasy. But progress came at a cost, and the price tag here seemed steep indeed. With every step deeper into the alien complex, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that they were walking into a trap, one meticulously designed to ensnare unwitting visitors and subject them to experiments beyond imagining. Whether they realized it yet or not, their fates were already intertwined with whatever forces governed this enigmatic place. It started subtly, almost imperceptibly, a dull ache behind the eyes, a slight stiffness in the joints, sensations easily attributed to fatigue or stress. After all, exploring an alien facility fraught with unknown dangers was bound to take its toll. None of the crew mentioned these symptoms during their initial debriefings, dismissing them as minor inconveniences rather than potential red flags. But as hours turned into days, the discomfort grew harder to ignore. Headaches intensified, becoming sharp stabs of pain that radiated across temples and down necks. Sleep became elusive, plagued by vivid, disjointed dreams that lingered long after waking. These visions were unlike anything the crew had experienced before, fragmented images of writhing tendrils, glowing eyes, and landscapes that shifted and morphed in impossible ways. Each dream left them disoriented, struggling to distinguish between memory and imagination. Lieutenant Marcus Hale was among the first to notice physical changes. Faint lines running along his forearms caught his attention during a routine inspection of his suit's integrity. Dark veins pulsed faintly when touched, their rhythm irregular and unsettling. Initially, he assumed it was some kind of bruising or reaction to prolonged exposure to unfamiliar environmental conditions. However, as the days passed, the veins grew more pronounced, spreading outward in intricate patterns that resembled circuitry etched directly into his skin. He tried to hide his concern, but the anxiety gnawed at him constantly, fueling sleepless nights spent staring at his reflection in the mirror, searching for answers that eluded him. Dr. Priya Nair found herself waking up drenched in sweat, her heart racing despite no apparent cause. Her normally steady hands trembled uncontrollably, making even simple tasks difficult to perform. She ran countless tests on herself, checking for toxins, infections, or any anomaly that might explain her symptoms. Everything came back normal, or at least within acceptable parameters. Yet she couldn't shake the feeling that something was fundamentally wrong. Her instincts screamed at her to dig deeper, to look beyond conventional diagnostics and consider possibilities outside the realm of standard medical practice. Still, she hesitated, unwilling to voice her fears lest she incite panic among the others. Even Captain Voss, ever composed and unflappable, admitted privately that she felt off. Subtle shifts in perception troubled her. Colors seemed brighter, sounds sharper, smells more intense. At times, she swore she could hear whispers in languages she didn't recognize, voices that faded whenever she turned to locate their source. Rational explanations eluded her, leaving her frustrated and increasingly isolated. Trusting her own senses had always been second nature, yet now doubt crept in, undermining her confidence and clouding her judgment. The realization hit them simultaneously during a routine check and back aboard the Odyssey. They weren't sick, they were changing. Skin textures altered subtly, some growing rougher while others became impossibly smooth. Eyes shifted color, pupils elongating into slits. Panic set in quickly, followed by denial. None wanted to believe what was happening, yet the evidence was undeniable. Whatever they had encountered on that moon had infiltrated their bodies, rewriting them at a fundamental level. The transformations varied from person to person, adding layers of complexity to an already dire situation. Commander Jace Reynolds developed heightened reflexes, reacting to stimuli faster than humanly possible. Engineer Sofia Alvarez noticed her fingers growing thinner, almost skeletal, yet retaining surprising dexterity. Communications specialist Liam Chun struggled with speech, his words slurring as though his vocal cords were being reshaped. Fear bred paranoia. Trust, once unshakable among the tightly knit group, began to fray. Accusations flew. Who had touched what? Who had ventured too close to the pods? Rational thought gave way to primal instincts as each person grappled with their deteriorating sense of self. Meanwhile, the changes continued unabated. New abilities emerged alongside grotesque deformities. Some gained heightened senses, able to hear whispers from miles away or see in complete darkness. Others developed unnatural strength, or weaknesses that left them incapacitated. The line between evolution and degradation blurred until it disappeared altogether. Amidst the chaos, one question loomed largest of all. Why? What purpose did these modifications serve? Were they random side effects of exposure to alien technology, or part of a deliberate design? If the latter, what end goal justified such drastic alterations? Speculation ran rampant, fueled by fear and desperation. Some theorized they were being prepared for integration into an alien ecosystem, adapted to survive in environments hostile to baseline humans. Others believed they were being weaponized, transformed into living tools for purposes unknown. A few clung to the hope that reversal was possible, that their original forms could somehow be restored. But hope was a fragile thing, easily shattered by the relentless march of change consuming them piece by piece. Desperation drove them to action. Using every diagnostic tool available, the crew attempted to understand the nature of their transformation. Blood samples revealed genetic sequences never seen before, sequences that matched nothing in Earth's database, but bore eerie similarities to fragments recovered from the alien facility. It became clear that whatever those pods contained had somehow integrated itself into their DNA. The implications were staggering. They weren't dealing with mere contamination or infection. This was genetic engineering on a scale incomprehensible to human science. Entire sections of their genomes had been rewritten, replaced with alien code that directed cells to grow, divide, and mutate in ways that defied natural laws. Proteins folded into shapes never observed before, Enzymes catalyzed reactions that shouldn't have been chemically possible, and neural pathways rewired themselves to accommodate sensory inputs and outputs that bordered on supernatural. Dr. Priya Nair took charge of analyzing the data, channeling her scientific training into a desperate bid for answers. She pored over schematics salvaged from the facility, cross-referencing them with scans of their mutating bodies. Her findings painted a grim picture. The genetic modifications weren't random. They followed a precise pattern, designed to enhance certain traits while suppressing others. Muscle density increased exponentially in some areas, granting superhuman strength, while bone structure weakened elsewhere, rendering limbs brittle and prone to fractures. Sensory organs evolved rapidly, allowing individuals to perceive wavelengths of light and sound beyond the typical human range. Yet these enhancements came at a cost. Immune systems faltered, leaving them vulnerable to diseases they should have been able to resist. Hormonal balances shifted erratically, triggering mood swings, aggression, and episodes of dissociation. Worst of all, cognitive functions began to degrade, memories slipping away like sand through fingers. Personalities fractured, identities blurred, and the core essence of who they were slowly unraveled thread by thread. More disturbing still, the process appeared incomplete. Whatever purpose these changes served remained unclear, but one thing was certain: the crew was part of an experiment. An experiment conducted not by humans, but by beings whose motives were as alien as their biology. This revelation sparked a fierce debate. Should they attempt to reverse the process? Could they even return to their original state? Or was resistance futile, their fate already sealed? Divisions formed within the group. Some argued for immediate departure, hoping distance from the moon might halt further mutation. Others believed staying offered the best chance to uncover a cure. Tensions mounted, threatening to tear the fragile alliance apart. Captain Voss called an emergency meeting to address the escalating conflict. Gathered in the ship's cramped conference room, the crew sat in tense silence, eyes darting nervously between one another. The air crackled with unspoken accusations and simmering resentment. Finally, Voss spoke, her voice steady but tinged with exhaustion. "We're scientists," she reminded them. "Explorers. We came here seeking knowledge, and now we've found it. Not in the way we expected, but it's ours to understand. Running won't solve anything. If we leave now, we abandon any chance of fixing this." Her words struck a chord, momentarily quelling the storm of emotions swirling around the table. Slowly, reluctantly, nods of agreement followed. They would stay for now, but the decision came with risks. Time was running out, and with each passing hour, the transformations grew more pronounced, more irreversible. Amidst the chaos, Dr. Nair threw herself into her work with renewed determination. The lab aboard the Odyssey became her sanctuary, a place where she could focus solely on unraveling the mysteries coursing through their veins. She worked tirelessly, often skipping meals and ignoring pleas from the others to rest. Her dedication bordered on obsession, driven by a mixture of professional pride and personal terror. If anyone could find a solution, it was her, but failure loomed large, casting a shadow over every breakthrough and setback alike. Using advanced gene sequencers and bioanalyzers, she mapped the foreign DNA strands infiltrating their systems, tracing their origins and interactions with human genetics. Patterns emerged, revealing a sophisticated design that mimicked natural evolutionary processes yet operated on an accelerated timeline. Regulatory proteins acted as switches, activating specific genes in sequence while deactivating others. Epigenetic markers guided cellular development, ensuring consistency across multiple hosts despite individual variations. Her discoveries painted a chilling portrait of intent. The alien architects behind this experiment weren't merely tinkering with biology. They were crafting something entirely new. Enhanced physical attributes suggested adaptation to extreme environments, while neurological adjustments hinted at expanded cognitive capabilities. Yet these improvements came bundled with vulnerabilities, creating organisms finely tuned to excel in narrowly defined roles but ill-equipped to handle deviation. It was as if they were being sculpted into components of a larger machine, each piece optimized for a particular function within a grander design. The realization sent shivers down her spine. Humanity prided itself on free will, autonomy, and individuality. To reduce sentient beings to cogs in a cosmic mechanism felt like the ultimate violation, a stripping away of everything that made them human. Meanwhile, tensions among the crew reached a boiling point. Fear of the unknown manifested in erratic behavior, mistrust, and outright hostility. Arguments erupted over trivial matters, escalating into shouting matches that left everyone shaken and drained. Personal boundaries dissolved, replaced by raw instinct and survival-driven logic. Commander Jace Reynolds, once a pillar of stability, snapped during a heated exchange with engineer Sofia Alvarez. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to lash out with alarming speed, sending equipment crashing to the floor before cooler heads intervened. The incident served as a wake-up call, forcing the group to confront the reality of their situation. They weren't just fighting external forces, they were battling internal demons unleashed by their own evolving biology. In an effort to restore order, Captain Voss implemented strict protocols regulating interaction and resource allocation. Shift schedules were staggered to minimize contact, reducing opportunities for conflict. Access to sensitive areas of the ship was restricted, monitored closely via surveillance cameras installed throughout the vessel. Communication channels were streamlined, ensuring vital information flowed efficiently without devolving into chaos. While these measures helped maintain a semblance of control, they also reinforced feelings of isolation and alienation. Conversations dwindled to terse exchanges focused solely on survival, devoid of the camaraderie and mutual support that had once defined their dynamic. Laughter became a distant memory, replaced by hollow stares and guarded expressions. Despite the mounting challenges, glimmers of hope persisted. Small victories in the lab provided temporary relief, moments of clarity amidst the encroaching madness. Dr. Nair identified potential inhibitors capable of slowing the genetic modifications, though synthesizing them required materials unavailable aboard the ship. Collaborative efforts yielded creative solutions, repurposing existing supplies and scavenging parts from damaged equipment. Progress was slow and fraught with setbacks, but each incremental step brought them closer to reclaiming agency over their fates. Unity remained fragile, however, held together by threads stretched thin under relentless pressure. One misstep, one lapse in judgment, and the fragile truce binding them together threatened to shatter completely. The decision to return to the alien facility was not made lightly. It came after days of heated debate, sleepless nights, and mounting desperation. The crew knew the risks. Every step deeper into that labyrinthine structure felt like walking further into a predator's den. Yet they also understood that their only chance at survival lay within those glowing walls. If answers existed, they would be found there. Armed with makeshift weapons crafted from spare parts and tools scavenged from the Odyssey's engineering bay, the crew prepared for their descent. As they approached the moon's surface once more, an oppressive weight settled over them. The air inside the alien structure seemed heavier this time, charged with an energy that made breathing difficult and movement sluggish. Every sound reverberated unnaturally, as though the walls themselves were listening. Shadows danced in the periphery of their vision, flickering just out of reach. The corridors, which had initially appeared chaotic and nonsensical, now seemed purposeful, almost alive. Patterns shifted subtly as they passed, rearranging themselves in ways that defied logic. Each step forward felt like provoking something ancient and malevolent. And then they saw it, a chamber unlike any other, dominated by a massive sphere pulsating with radiant light. Suspended in the center of the room, the orb emitted waves of energy that resonated through their very bones. Its surface shimmered with iridescent colors, shifting constantly between hues of blue, green, and gold. It was beautiful and terrifying. The sphere called to them, drawing them closer despite every instinct screaming to flee. As they stood before it, memories flooded their minds, not their own, but visions of possibilities. They saw themselves remade, stronger, faster, better adapted to survive in environments unimaginable. But they also saw loss of identity, of connection, of humanity itself. For some, the allure of power proved irresistible. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stepped forward first, his eyes fixed on the sphere with an intensity that bordered on obsession. He reached out, his hand trembling slightly, and touched the surface. Instantly, a surge of energy coursed through him, lifting him off the ground as if caught in an invisible current. His body convulsed violently, muscles spasming uncontrollably. When he finally collapsed, gasping for breath, the others watched in stunned silence. His skin had taken on a faint luminescence, veins glowing faintly beneath the surface. Whatever had happened to him, it was clear he was no longer entirely human. Dr. Priya Nair hesitated, torn between scientific curiosity and primal fear. She hypothesized that the sphere acted as both catalyst and control center, guiding the transformations according to parameters set by its creators. If true, disabling it might stop, or at least slow, the process. Yet doing so carried risks. Would severing the connection undo the damage done? Or would it accelerate their descent into monstrosity? With trembling hands, she activated her scanner, attempting to gather data while maintaining a safe distance. The readings were incomprehensible, a jumble of symbols and waveforms that defied interpretation. Still, she pressed on, driven by a determination bordering on recklessness. The sphere radiated warmth, inviting yet menacing. As Dr. Nair approached, images flooded her mind, not memories, but glimpses of possibilities. She saw herself remade, stronger, faster, better adapted to survive in environments unimaginable. But she also saw loss of identity, of connection, of humanity itself. The contrast was jarring, forcing each individual to confront what they valued most. For some, the allure of power proved irresistible. Others recoiled in horror, clinging desperately to the remnants of their former selves. Nair stepped forward, driven by logic rather than emotion. Her training told her that understanding the mechanism behind the sphere was key to reversing its effects. Using her scanner, she identified several nodes embedded within the structure, each pulsing with concentrated energy. These nodes, she theorized, served as conduits for the genetic modifications spreading through their bodies. If she could disrupt their function, perhaps she could halt the transformation process. But the sphere resisted her attempts at interference. Each time she tried to manipulate a node, the entire structure reacted violently. Lights dimmed and brightened erratically, machinery whirred to life, and low-frequency vibrations rattled the chamber. The crew braced themselves, unsure whether the structure was defending itself or simply responding to external stimuli. Nair persisted, her focus unwavering despite the chaos unfolding around her. Finally, she managed to isolate one of the nodes, redirecting its energy flow back into the sphere itself. The reaction was immediate and catastrophic. A deafening roar filled the chamber as the sphere began to destabilize, its surface cracking and splintering like glass under immense pressure. Waves of energy rippled outward, knocking the crew off their feet. When the dust settled, the sphere was gone, replaced by a gaping void that pulsed faintly with residual energy. For a moment, there was silence, a fragile, uncertain calm. Then, slowly, the crew began to notice changes. The mutations slowed, some even reversing partially. Skin textures softened, eyes returned to their original shape, and the unnatural growths receded. Hope flared briefly, fragile but undeniable. Yet the victory was short-lived. As they made their way back to the entrance, they realized the facility was collapsing around them. Walls buckled, ceilings caved in, and the once pulsating corridors grew dark and lifeless. Panic surged anew as they scrambled to escape, dodging falling debris and navigating increasingly unstable terrain. By the time they reached the surface, the structure had vanished entirely, swallowed by the moon's crust as if it had never existed. Back aboard the Odyssey, the crew struggled to process what had happened. Their bodies were still changing, albeit at a slower rate. The reversal of some mutations offered a glimmer of hope, but the underlying threat remained. Whatever force had driven the sphere's machinations was not gone, it was merely dormant. And with the facility destroyed, they had lost their best chance at finding a permanent solution. Tensions resurfaced, amplified by exhaustion and fear. Commander Jace Reynolds, whose physical prowess had been both a blessing and a curse, found himself grappling with guilt. He had led the charge into the facility, convinced it was their only option. Now, faced with the consequences of that decision, he questioned whether he had doomed them all. Engineer Sofia Alvarez channeled her frustration into work, obsessively tinkering with the ship's systems in search of answers. Communications specialist Liam Chun withdrew further into himself, his speech becoming increasingly fragmented and unintelligible. Even Captain Voss, usually the voice of reason, showed cracks in her composure, snapping at minor infractions and retreating to her quarters for hours at a time. Amidst the turmoil, Dr. Nair continued her research, determined to piece together the fragments of data salvaged from the facility. She discovered traces of a secondary system, a failsafe embedded within the sphere's programming. This system, she theorized, could potentially restore their original DNA sequences if activated correctly. However, accessing it required deciphering the alien language used throughout the facility, a task that seemed insurmountable given their limited resources and deteriorating mental states. Days turned into weeks as the crew drifted aimlessly through space, unsure of their next move. The Odyssey's fuel reserves dwindled, forcing them to ration power and conserve supplies. Morale plummeted, replaced by a pervasive sense of hopelessness. Each member coped differently, their strategies ranging from denial to outright despair. Lieutenant Marcus Hale threw himself into physical training, pushing his body to its limits in an attempt to regain control over his rapidly evolving form. Dr. Nair buried herself in her lab, poring over cryptic symbols and running endless simulations in search of a breakthrough. Captain Voss eventually called another meeting, her tone weary but resolute. "We can't keep running," she said. "If we don't find a way to fix this, we'll lose ourselves completely. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. We have to try." Her words reignited a spark of determination within the group, though it burned faintly against the backdrop of their overwhelming circumstances. Together, they devised a plan, using the ship's AI to analyze linguistic patterns and cross-reference them with known languages. They hoped to crack the code embedded in the alien scripts. It was a long shot, but it was all they had. The process was painstakingly slow, requiring hours of manual input and constant recalibration. Progress came in fits and starts, small victories overshadowed by frequent setbacks. Yet gradually, pieces began to fall into place. Certain symbols repeated consistently, suggesting grammatical structures or functional commands. Others corresponded to biological terms, hinting at instructions for genetic manipulation. Slowly but surely, a picture began to emerge, one that offered a glimmer of hope amidst the encroaching darkness. With the alien language partially decoded, the crew turned their attention to the failsafe system. According to Nair's analysis, activating it would require interfacing directly with the Odyssey's mainframe, essentially turning the ship into a conduit for the alien technology. The risks were enormous. Failure could overload the system, destroying the ship and everyone aboard. Success, on the other hand, offered the possibility of restoring their humanity. After much deliberation, they decided to proceed, knowing it was their last chance. Engineer Sofia Alvarez took the lead, rewiring the ship's core processors to accommodate the alien protocols. Her hands moved with precision born of desperation, soldering circuits and rerouting connections with a speed and efficiency that belied her deteriorating condition. Meanwhile, Dr. Nair monitored the AI's progress, ensuring the translation algorithms remained accurate. Tension mounted as the countdown to activation began, each second stretching into eternity. When the moment arrived, the entire crew gathered in the command center, watching anxiously as Alvarez initiated the sequence. The ship shuddered violently, lights flickering as energy surged through its systems. Alarms blared, warning of critical failures, but Alvarez ignored them, focusing solely on completing the procedure. Finally, with a deafening hum, the system stabilized. Data streamed across the monitors, displaying complex equations and biological schematics. Slowly, the crew felt a change, a subtle shift in their bodies, as if something deep within them was being reset. The transformation was gradual but undeniable. Skin smoothed, eyes cleared, and the unnatural appendages receded. For the first time in weeks, they felt like themselves again, or at least close enough to reclaim a sense of normalcy. Relief washed over them, mingled with disbelief. Had they truly succeeded? Or was this merely a temporary reprieve? Dr. Priya and Nair ran additional tests, confirming that their DNA had reverted to its original state. The alien modifications had been neutralized, leaving behind only faint traces of their ordeal. Yet questions lingered. What had been the purpose of the experiment? Who or what had orchestrated it? And why had the failsafe existed in the first place? Without answers, the crew couldn't shake the feeling that they had narrowly escaped something far greater than they understood. Captain Elena Voss addressed the group, her voice steady but tinged with caution. "We've survived," she said, "but we can't forget what happened here. Someday, someone will need to know the truth. Until then, we carry it with us." Her words resonated deeply, reminding them of the responsibility they now bore. They were no longer just explorers, they were witnesses to an event that transcended human comprehension. Yet the weight of their experience pressed heavily on each of them. Lieutenant Marcus Hale stared at his hands, still haunted by the memory of how they had twisted unnaturally during the height of his mutation. Engineer Sofia Alvarez avoided mirrors, unable to reconcile the woman she saw reflected there with the creature she had become. Communications specialist Liam Chin struggled to articulate his thoughts, his speech occasionally lapsing into fragmented patterns as though the alien influence lingered in his mind. Even Commander Jace Reynolds, who prided himself on emotional resilience, found himself plagued by nightmares of writhing tendrils and glowing orbs. As the Odyssey charted a course back toward Earth, the crew grappled with the psychological scars left by their encounter with the unknown. Conversations became sparse, filled with unspoken fears and unresolved tensions. Each member retreated into their own world, processing the trauma in solitude. Captain Voss tried to maintain a semblance of order, organizing daily check-ins and encouraging open dialogue. But the effort felt futile. The shared experience that once bound them together now drove them apart, as if the alien experiment had sown seeds of mistrust and isolation that continued to grow even after its effects had faded. Dr. Nair threw herself into documenting every detail of their journey, compiling a comprehensive report for the scientific community. She knew the data they had gathered could revolutionize humanity's understanding of genetics and extraterrestrial life, but sharing it also meant exposing the crew to scrutiny and potential exploitation. Would Earth's government see them as heroes or lab rats? Would their story inspire or fear? These uncertainties weighed heavily on her, adding another layer of complexity to an already fraught situation. Meanwhile, the ship itself seemed to bear the scars of their ordeal. Systems malfunctioned without warning, sensors registered phantom readings, and low-frequency hums echoed through the corridors late at night. Some speculated that remnants of the alien technology had embedded themselves within the Odyssey's infrastructure, while others dismissed these occurrences as mere coincidence. Either way, the atmosphere aboard the vessel remained tense, charged with an undercurrent of unease that refused to dissipate. Weeks turned into months as the Odyssey traversed the vast emptiness of space. The monotony of interstellar travel offered little distraction from their lingering anxieties. To pass the time, the crew engaged in routine maintenance tasks, simulated training exercises, and occasional attempts at recreation. Yet none of these activities could fully mask the underlying tension that simmered beneath the surface. Arguments erupted over trivial matters, only to fizzle out as quickly as they began, leaving behind an awkward silence that stretched endlessly. One evening, as the ship drifted past a distant nebula bathed in hues of violet and gold, Captain Voss called a meeting in the observation deck. The panoramic windows provided a breathtaking view of the cosmos, a reminder of both its beauty and its terror. Standing before her crew, she spoke candidly about the challenges they faced, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally. "We've been through hell," she admitted, "and maybe we'll never fully recover from it. But we have a choice. We can let this define us, or we can rise above it. We owe it to ourselves and to humanity to tell our story, not as victims, but as survivors." Her words struck a chord, reigniting a flicker of camaraderie that had been absent for far too long. Slowly, tentatively, the crew began to share their thoughts and feelings, opening up about the fears and doubts that had consumed them. It wasn't easy. Old wounds ran deep, but the act of speaking aloud brought a measure of relief, as if releasing pent-up pressure that had threatened to overwhelm them. As Earth loomed closer on the horizon, the crew prepared for the inevitable debriefings and investigations that awaited them. Governments, scientists, and media outlets would clamor for access to their findings, eager to dissect every aspect of their journey. The prospect was daunting, yet it also carried a sense of purpose. Their ordeal had not been in vain. It had yielded knowledge that could shape the future of humanity. Still, doubts persisted. Would their warnings be heeded or dismissed as paranoia? Could humanity handle the truth about the existence of beings capable of such profound manipulation? And what of the ethical implications of their discoveries? The alien technology represented unprecedented opportunities, but also unparalleled risks. Who would decide how to wield such power responsibly? On the final day of their voyage, the crew gathered one last time in the observation deck. Outside the windows, Earth appeared as a pale blue dot suspended against the infinite blackness of space. Its fragility was striking, a stark contrast to the vastness surrounding it. In that moment, they realized anew the importance of their mission, not just as explorers, but as guardians of the species they represented. Whatever lay ahead, they vowed to approach it with courage, wisdom, and humility. The Odyssey touched down on Earth amid a flurry of excitement and apprehension. Reporters swarmed the landing site, cameras flashing as the crew disembarked. Despite their exhaustion, they stood tall, united in their resolve to share their story honestly and completely. Over the following weeks, they endured countless interviews, medical examinations, and interrogations, recounting their experiences in painstaking detail. Their testimony sparked widespread debate, dividing public opinion and igniting fierce discussions among scientists, ethicists, and policymakers. Some hailed them as pioneers whose bravery had opened new frontiers of discovery. Others viewed them with suspicion, questioning the reliability of their accounts and the potential dangers posed by the alien technology. Through it all, the crew remained steadfast, advocating for transparency and caution. In the end, their journey served as both a triumph and a cautionary tale, a testament to humanity's boundless curiosity and the perils of venturing into the unknown. As they returned to their lives, forever changed by what they had endured, they carried with them a profound understanding of the delicate balance between progress and preservation. And though they had reclaimed their humanity, they knew they would never look at the stars quite the same way again. If you enjoyed this chilling tale of survival and transformation, don't forget to subscribe for more gripping stories from the depths of space. What lies beyond the stars may surprise you or terrify you. Are you ready to find out?